They say the strongest souls are not the ones that never fell, but the ones who rose again and again with quiet determination, often without anyone noticing. Strength doesn't come wrapped in gold or defined by external achievements. It is carved into the soul by experiences that leave us changed forever. The world may applaud the loudest voice in the room, but real strength often lies in those who walk silently, carrying the weight of their pain with grace. When we talk about building a strong personality, we must begin with the part we often hide from others, our scars. Everyone has a scar, some are visible, others are etched deep into the heart. Maybe you've lost someone you loved. Maybe you were betrayed by the people you trusted the most. Maybe your body failed you in ways you didn't deserve. Maybe you were told over and over that you weren't good enough. These moments leave marks, and in those moments we often ask, why me? We look at others who seem to move through life untouched, and we feel small, broken, forgotten. But what if I told you that the very thing you're ashamed of could become your greatest strength? There is something incredibly powerful about pain. It either breaks you or rebuilds you. And the truth is, most of us are not given a choice about what happens to us. Life just happens, unexpected, unforgiving, unapologetic. But what we do with our pain, how we choose to respond to it, that is where our strength begins to grow. Not in the moment of victory, but in the silence after defeat. Not in the celebrations, but in the stillness after the storm, when you're lying there with nothing left but a decision, to stay down or to rise. And let me be honest, it's not romantic. Rising doesn't always look beautiful. Sometimes it looks like dragging yourself through one more day with puffy eyes and a trembling voice. Sometimes it's choosing to smile for someone else when your heart feels like it's collapsing. But every time you do that, every time you carry on when no one would blame you for giving up, a part of your character is being refined. Your soul is being stretched, and your personality, your strength, your essence is being shaped. People think strength is about being unshakable, untouched by emotion. But strength, real strength, is the opposite. It is about feeling everything: pain, grief, disappointment, and choosing not to let those feelings define you. It is about crying when you need to, but still showing up. It is about breaking apart and learning how to rebuild yourself, even if it's piece by painful piece. And each time you do that, each time you look at your own brokenness and say, I'm still here, you become unbreakable, not because you can't be hurt, but because you've learned how to heal. We're taught to hide our scars, to cover up what makes us feel less than whole. But what if our scars were never meant to be hidden? What if they are the most honest part of us, the proof that we endured, that we didn't quit, that we kept going when everything in us screamed to stop? Your scars are not ugly, they are sacred. They are the ink with which your story is written. When someone looks at you and sees resilience, it's not because you've never suffered. It's because you did, and you rose anyway. And yet, we often compare our journeys with others, forgetting that we're comparing our behind. The scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We don't see their sleepless nights, their failures, their silent prayers. We only see the polished result. But true connection, the kind that inspires and empowers, doesn't come from perfection. It comes from authenticity. From standing tall and saying, this is me, I've been through the fire and I'm still standing. There is no shame in what hurt you. The shame is in believing that your pain disqualifies you. It doesn't. In fact, your pain might be the very thing that equips you to serve, to lead, to empathize. Someone out there needs your story. Someone is waiting to hear that they are not alone, that it's okay to fall apart sometimes, and that healing is possible. When you show up, scarred but unashamed, you give others permission to do the same. You become a lighthouse, not because you were never in the storm, but because you became the light that survived it. Think of the people who have touched your life in profound ways. Chances are it wasn't their accomplishments that stayed with you. It was their honesty, their vulnerability, their ability to keep going despite the odds. That's what leaves a mark. That's what builds a personality others trust and admire. A strong personality isn't built in a straight line. It is forged in fires you never wanted to walk through and built by decisions you made when no one was clapping for you. So next time you look at your reflection and see the cracks, the hurts, the battles you're still fighting, remember this: those aren't signs of weakness. They are symbols of survival. They are the reason you are becoming someone no storm can shake. The world may never fully understand your journey, but you don't need it to. What matters is that you keep walking, that you wear your scars like armor, not because they protect you from feeling, but because they remind you of who you are becoming. And in that becoming, your true strength will be found. We spend so much of our lives trying to be enough, for someone, for something, for a world that constantly tells us to be more, to be better, to be different. We measure ourselves against ideals that were never ours to begin with. We compare our journey to someone else's destination and wonder why we're not there yet. We scroll through perfect pictures, flawless smiles, and curated lives, forgetting that none of it shows the full truth. Somewhere in all that noise, we forget the most important thing. We forget how to accept ourselves. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop growing or that you give up on improvement. It means you stop fighting the person you are in this moment. It means you make peace with your imperfections, your flaws, your emotions, your story. You stop running from the parts of yourself that feel too broken or too complicated, and you begin to understand that every version of you, even the one you're trying to outgrow, has value. There is something incredibly powerful in looking at yourself just as you are and saying, "I am enough." Not because you have achieved everything you want, not because you've mastered life, but because being who you are, with your doubts, your fears, your struggles, is still worthy of love, respect, and kindness. That's where strength begins. That's where a strong personality is born, not in perfection, but in honest self-acceptance. But the world doesn't teach us that. From a very young age, we're taught to perform, to act like we're okay, to hide our vulnerability, to mask our insecurities. We're taught to be strong, but never sensitive, confident, but never questioning. We learn to build a version of ourselves that others will approve of, while burying the one that truly needs our love. And the more we do this, the more disconnected we become from our own essence. We try to silence the inner critic by pretending it's not there, but it doesn't go away. It just gets louder in the quiet moments. When the noise fades, when the crowd leaves, when the lights are off and it's just us, alone with our thoughts. That's when we realize how uncomfortable we've become in our own skin. And that discomfort, if left unaddressed, becomes the foundation of insecurity, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Self-acceptance is the quiet rebellion in a world that profits from your self-doubt. It's the gentle voice that says, "You don't have to prove your worth, you already have it." It's the strength to stop editing yourself for others and to show up authentically, even if that means being misunderstood. It's looking at your reflection and seeing not just the things you want to change, but the strength it took to get where you are now. It is not easy to accept yourself when you've been told, directly or indirectly, that who you are is not good enough. Maybe you've been criticized too many times. Maybe you grew up in an environment that only valued achievement. Maybe someone made you feel small for being emotional, sensitive, or different. Those wounds don't heal overnight. They take time, patience, and a lot of unlearning. But that's the journey, to gently peel back the layers of expectation and find the person you were before the world told you who to be. It's in that space where you realize you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be loved, and you don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to be real, and realness starts with being honest about how you feel. When you're angry, allow it. When you're hurt, admit it. When you're lost, don't pretend to have all the answers. We live in a world that celebrates performance, but real connection happens through honesty. When you allow yourself to be fully seen, flaws, pain, beauty, everything, You stop hiding behind a mask, and that's when others start to see you for who you really are. Self-acceptance also means taking responsibility. Not blame, not shame, but the quiet acknowledgement that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you do control how you see yourself in response. Maybe life didn't go the way you planned. Maybe you made mistakes that haunt you. Maybe you're not where you thought you'd be. That doesn't make you a failure. That makes you human. Every experience, good or bad, has shaped you. And instead of trying to erase the past, you can choose to integrate it into your growth. You can look at your story and say, yes, this happened, and I still choose to love myself through it. That is radical. That is healing. That is powerful. There is also freedom in not needing constant validation. When you accept yourself, you no longer need others to approve of your every move. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You stop chasing applause and begin living in alignment with your truth. You learn that it's okay if some people don't understand you because you understand yourself, and there's a lightness that comes with that. A peace. When you stop resisting who you are, you begin to flow through life with a kind of quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not ego, but a calm certainty that you are enough, that you are worthy, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, simply by existing. That doesn't mean every day will feel perfect. There will still be moments of doubt. There will still be days when you wish things were different, but those moments no longer define you. They become visitors, not residents. You learn to feel them, acknowledge them, and let them go. And each time you do that, you reinforce a deep truth. You can hold space for all of who you are. A strong personality isn't loud, showy, or invincible. It's grounded in someone who has done the inner work to be okay with themselves. Someone who has looked at their wounds and said, I'm still proud of who I am. Someone who doesn't need to impress to feel worthy. Someone who knows that growth comes from love, not self-criticism. This kind of strength doesn't need to shout. It simply exists in how you carry yourself, in how you treat others, in how you speak to yourself when no one is listening. It is the quiet resilience of someone who has made peace with their journey, with all its detours, messes, and beauty. And in that peace and that quiet truth is where your real power begins to shine. Kindness is often misunderstood in today's world. It is seen as a weakness, a softness, a vulnerability that can be taken advantage of. But that's a misconception. Kindness, in its truest form, requires immense strength. It is not something you offer only when everything is going well. It is what you choose even when you are tired, when you have been hurt, when the world has given you every reason to become cold. The decision to remain kind when life has been unkind to you. That is strength of the highest form. It is easy to smile when your heart is full. It is easy to offer a kind word when the world has been generous. But when life has scarred you, when people have disappointed you, when you have cried in silence and felt the sting of betrayal or abandonment, what then? What does it mean to be kind in the face of your own pain? To be kind is to resist becoming what hurt you. It is choosing not to mirror the cruelty or indifference that has been directed at you. It is deciding that your values are not conditional, that your character does not shift based on how others treat you. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse or being naive. It means refusing to allow bitterness to change your nature. It is the understanding that what others do is a reflection of them, not of you. And so, even when your heart is bruised, you choose to keep it open. Not because you haven't been hurt, but because you know the world needs more light, not more darkness. There is something incredibly dignified about someone who remains kind even when no one appreciates it. When your kindness is met with silence, when your help is forgotten, when your good intentions are misjudged, and still you choose to remain kind, that is when it becomes a superpower. That is when it becomes a cornerstone of a strong personality. Because strength is not always about power or control. Sometimes it is simply the courage to remain soft in a hard world. Imagine a person who has every reason to be cold. They've lost people they loved, faced injustice, walked through loneliness, and been overlooked. The world has shown them its harshest side, but instead of becoming bitter, they become a safe space for others. They offer compassion not because they were never denied it, but because they understand too well what it feels like to be without it. That person is not weak. That person is a quiet warrior. Their kindness is not a lack of experience. It is proof of emotional resilience. Kindness in adversity also means being gentle with yourself. Often, we find it easier to extend compassion to others than to ourselves. We forgive others but carry our own mistakes like a burden we're not allowed to drop. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. Being kind starts within. It is in how you speak to yourself, how you forgive your own imperfections, how you allow yourself to rest when needed. It's in recognizing that you're doing the best you can with the tools you have, and that beating yourself up will never lead to growth. A strong personality carries this internal kindness, this quiet self-respect that says, I am worthy of my own love. And when you practice this kind of inner kindness, it reflects in how you treat others. You no longer seek to win arguments or prove people wrong. You seek understanding, you listen more. You respond instead of reacting. You learn to see beyond the surface, to recognize that everyone is carrying something you cannot see. That person who snapped at you might be grieving. That friend who's grown distant might be struggling with anxiety. That stranger who was rude might be fighting battles they haven't shared. When you look at others through a lens of empathy, your actions come from a place of strength, not pride. Kindness also requires courage. Sometimes it means standing alone. In a world that often values sarcasm over sincerity and dominance over compassion, choosing kindness can feel countercultural. But the people who dare to show up with empathy are the ones who bring real change. It takes courage to apologize first, to let go of grudges, to speak gently when you want to shout, to forgive someone who isn't sorry. It's not about being passive, it's about being intentional. It's knowing that how you treat others says more about your character than any success ever will. There will be times when your kindness is mistaken for weakness, when people assume they can walk over you because you won't retaliate. But know this, your ability to stay kind in such moments is not a weakness, it is a choice. A conscious, deliberate choice to rise above negativity. You don't have to match their energy. You don't have to mirror their behavior. You can remain rooted in who you are. And if that means walking away from people who take your kindness for granted, then so be it. Because being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. It means having the strength to set boundaries with love, to protect your peace without losing your soul. The people who leave the deepest impressions in our lives are rarely those who had the loudest voices or the biggest presence. They are the ones who made us feel seen, the ones who listened when we had nothing to offer, the ones who extended grace when we least deserved it. That kind of kindness lingers. It stays with us, even years later, because it touches something deeper than words. It reminds us of what truly matters, not status or success, but humanity. In building a strong personality, kindness becomes your quiet armor. It doesn't need to be flashy or recognized. Its power is in its consistency, in being the person who shows up with love, even when they've been hurt, in being the one who makes others feel safe in a world that often doesn't, in choosing to add softness to hard moments, to be a calm presence in the storm. And that choice, made again and again, is what builds character that cannot be shaken. Being kind does not mean you are unhurt. It means you have chosen to channel your pain into purpose, to let it shape you, not destroy you, to let it deepen your empathy rather than build walls. It's the decision to be light in a world that can sometimes feel so dark. And in that decision, again and again, a powerful, unshakable personality is forged, not loud, not boastful, but deeply rooted, resilient, and strong beyond measure. Confidence is often misunderstood as being loud, assertive, or constantly in control. But real confidence is not about dominating a room or always having the right answer. It's a quiet inner knowing that you are enough. It is the voice inside that whispers, even on your worst days, I can handle this. Confidence doesn't come from never failing. It comes from failing and still believing in your ability to rise. It's not always about being fearless. Sometimes it's about walking into the unknown with your hands shaking and your heart uncertain and doing it anyway. True confidence begins with self-awareness. It grows from the courage to sit with your own truth, to acknowledge your fears, to own your story without shame. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about embracing your imperfections and saying, this is who I am and I'm still worthy. You see, real confidence doesn't need validation from the outside. It is not built on applause or approval. It is not conditional. It is something you carry inside you like a quiet flame, steady even in the darkest night. There are moments in life when you will question yourself, when nothing seems to go right, and self-doubt creeps in like an unwanted guest. You'll look around and feel like everyone else has it all figured out while you're stumbling through the unknown. But the truth is, everyone stumbles, everyone feels lost sometimes. The difference lies in how you respond to that feeling. Confidence doesn't mean you don't have those moments. It means you don't let them define you. You allow yourself to feel the fear, but you move forward anyway. You try again. You keep showing up. It's easy to feel confident when things are going well, when the world claps for you, when your plans succeed, when people affirm your choices. But what about when the applause fades, when no one is watching, when your path is unclear, when you feel like you're walking alone? That's when real confidence is tested. That's when you discover whether your belief in yourself is rooted in something deeper than external praise. And when you realize you can keep going even without that praise, that's when you start to build something unshakable. A confident person doesn't always have the answers, but they trust their ability to figure things out. They're not afraid to ask questions, to learn, to grow. They understand that vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. It's the strength to be seen as you are, to speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Confidence isn't loud, it's honest. It's showing up authentically without needing to perform. It's the quiet courage of someone who knows they are worthy, not because of what they've achieved, but because of who they are. There will be people who misunderstand your confidence. Some will mistake it for arrogance, especially if they've never learned how to feel secure in themselves. Others might try to dim your light, not because of anything you've done, but because your strength reminds them of their own insecurities. But you don't owe anyone the version of you that makes them comfortable. You don't have to shrink so others can feel tall. A truly confident person knows how to hold space for others without losing themselves. They uplift without compromising their own worth. Confidence also means being able to handle rejection and criticism without falling apart. It's about knowing that someone else's opinion of you is not the final truth. That one failure does not define your journey, that mistakes are not proof you're not good enough. They are evidence that you are learning, evolving, and brave enough to try. Confidence doesn't protect you from falling. It just teaches you how to get back up with grace. A person who believes in themselves doesn't wait for permission to live fully. They don't wait for someone else to validate their dreams. They give themselves permission. They speak their desires out loud, they take risks, they show up even when the outcome is uncertain. That kind of self-belief is magnetic. It inspires others not because it is perfect, but because it is real. When someone walks into a room with that kind of presence, you can feel it. Not because they demand attention, but because they radiate a calm assurance. That's the kind of confidence that can't be faked. It's built over time in the small moments, the ones no one sees. When you choose to get out of bed on a hard day, when you speak kindly to yourself after a failure, when you keep promises you've made to yourself. Every time you honor your own growth, your confidence strengthens. Every time you choose to trust your journey, you become more grounded. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about recognizing the value of who you already are. Confidence also allows you to celebrate others. When you're secure in yourself, you don't feel threatened by someone else's success. You can applaud their wins without doubting your own path. You understand that their light doesn't dim yours. This is where true strength lies, in knowing that your worth is not measured in comparison, but in authenticity. A confident person doesn't compete, they connect. They lift others while standing strong in their own light. There's a quiet beauty in someone who is confident enough to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn," who can admit they're wrong without losing their sense of self, who doesn't need to prove anything because their value isn't up for debate. This kind of confidence isn't loud or boastful. It's soft, steady, and powerful. It comes from a place of deep inner work, from healing, from self-reflection, from walking through the fire and coming out stronger. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you build, and the foundation is trust. When you begin to trust your instincts, your voice, your decisions, you start to move differently. You stop over-explaining, you stop second-guessing everything, you start walking with intention, speaking with clarity, living with purpose. You realize that the opinions of others matter less than your own peace. And you stop needing the world to tell you you're worthy, because you already know. And on the days when you forget, when doubt creeps in again, you remind yourself, you've made it through so much already. You've faced moments that once felt impossible. You've grown, stumbled, risen, and still you're here. That is enough. That is strength. That is the quiet, unwavering confidence of someone who is learning to stand tall in their own truth.